Hey guys, hope you're doing good um, and dealing with this right now. So for today's class, I'm gonna go through the notes online with you guys. So I'll record my voice as I go through these notes. Um, what I would like you to do is print them out. I posted them on Classroom with this. But if you can't print because you don't have a printer or access to a printer, I'm going to ask you to do the notes in your notebook. Um, in So if you want to pause it now and grab a notebook or print out that notes paper, you can. And then what we'll do is we'll go through this together through this video. So hopefully you write the notes as the video goes on. So this section that we're going through is 4.4. The section is adding and subtracting rational expressions. Last one we did was multiplying and dividing. So now you should have a notebook or that note sheet with you. Now, the steps to adding, subtracting rational functions or rational expressions. First, you want to factor the numerator and denominator if possible. Okay. Then the next one is to find the lowest common denominator, which would be the lowest thing that they have in common. Sort of like when you add and subtract regular fractions and you have to find the LCD. Next thing is to multiply the numerator and denominator of each fraction by what the fraction is missing from the least common denominator. And then last step is you're going to add or subtract the numerators together. And then obviously the denominator stays the same once the denominator is the LCD. So what we'll do is we'll go through a couple examples together. Example 1, we have 3 and 7 in the numerators. We can't do anything with them. The first fraction has 3 over t plus 5. T plus 5 we can't do anything with, but we can factor t squared minus 25. So let's factor that. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 over t plus 5. And then plus 7 over, and then let's factor it. So this is a special case, right, where it factors to t plus 5 times t minus 5. I'm sorry for the writing. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do this. Now that we factored everything, we go to the second step, determine the LCD. So what is the lowest common denominator? Well, the first one has t plus 5. The second one also has t plus 5, but it has t minus 5 as well. So our LCD would be t plus 5 times t minus 5. All right. Now we've done step 2. We go to the third step. Multiply the numerator and denominator of each fraction by what the fraction is missing from the LCD. The second fraction has the LCD, so we don't have to multiply anything into it. The first one, right, we see is missing t minus 5. Okay, so what we need to do is multiply the numerator and denominator by t minus 5. So we get 3 times t minus 5. All right, and then what I'm going to do is make this one fraction now that we have the LCD. So we have t plus 5 and t minus 5 as our denominator. And now I'm going to add the 7 from our, the 7 right here from our original denominator. Okay. Now we just have to distribute the 3 to the t and the minus 5. So we get 3t minus 15 plus 7 over t plus 5 times t minus 5. And then we just have to combine our constants, negative 15 and 7. So we get, for a final answer, 3t. And then we have negative 8 over t plus 5 times t minus 5. Okay, and this is our solution. All right, now we're going to move on to another example. Okay, so let's factor out anything we can factor. So the top one, we can factor this as w and another w. And then same with the denominator, right? It should be w, another w, and then we just got to figure out what it's going to factor out to. Then I'm going to leave my 1 minus over w minus 5 over there. All right, so we have w minus 5 in the second denominator. One hint that I'm going to tell you is most likely when we factor this first denominator, we're going to have a w minus 5 in there. So I would test it out, okay, and then figure out what the other binomial needs to be. So if we have w minus 5 here, what times negative 5 gives us negative 40? Well, positive 8. So we look at this, right, and negative 5 plus 8 gives us our positive 3w, which we looked for right here. So we factored correctly. All right, now the second one, what we can do is look to see if we can factor it. It might not be as easy, but let's look. So we have 32. So two things that multiply to 32 would be 8 and 4. And if we add them together, right, then we know that we get 12w, which we factored correctly. All right, good. Now we need to find the LCD. So the LCD, right, both have w minus 5, but we also have a w plus 8. Okay, so what I'm going to do is multiply my second fraction's numerator and denominator by w plus 8. So I'm going to get w plus 8 times w plus 4. And then we have 1 times w plus 8, so plus w plus 8. And then we put that over w minus 5 times w plus 8. Okay. All right. Now, what we need to do is clean up the numerator. Okay. So we can see that something should cancel out. Okay. But we can't cancel it out right away. So let's actually change this right here back to w squared plus 12w plus 32, and then add the w plus 8 to it and see if we can factor that again. Okay, so w squared plus 12w plus 32 plus w plus 8. Right, and that's all over our LCD w minus 5 times w plus 8. All right, then it becomes, bring this down right here, and we get w squared plus 13w plus 40 all over w minus 5 times w plus 8. Let's factor this numerator. All right, so Some things that multiply to 40 would be 8 and 5. So if we try 8 and 5, 5w plus 8w gives us our 13w right here. So we factor correctly. And then put that back over w minus 5 times w plus 8. And we can see the w plus 8 cancel out. So what's left over would be w plus 5 over w minus 5. And that is our solution. All right, so now looking at example 3, what I'll do is I'll help you just factor this first step, right? So we leave the first numerator denominator the same. We factor right here. X squared minus y squared is another special case, right? So we get x minus y times x plus y. Sort of like example 1, except we had t squared minus 25. Okay, so it was x minus 5 and x plus 5, or t plus 5 and t minus 5. All right, now what I want you to do is finish this on your own, and your final solution I will give you, and I want you to make sure you got this. So it should equal 5x minus 3y all over x minus y times x plus y. Okay, so try that on your own, and I'll move on to the next question. Now, example 4 is an example of pretty much like example 3 and 2 and 1, another addition problem. So again, this one, I'm just going to give you the final solution, and I want you to try this one on your own and see if you get to that final solution. If you don't, what you can do is chat with me on Remind and ask me how I got to this, and then I can show you some of the steps. But I don't want to just straight give you the steps right now. I want you to try this on your own. And then I'll do number 5 with you because it's our first subtraction problem. So example 5, we have a subtraction problem. It's going to be very similar, right? Just the second fraction we're subtracting from it. So we need to find a least common denominator. Okay, so we need to factor out some of these things. So, right, let's factor out our denominator here. This is r plus 3 times r minus 3, right? And then minus 6r plus 1 over. And then if we factor out this one, right, we get r minus 3 times r minus 3. Okay. That's because negative 3 times negative 3 gives us r positive 9, and then negative 3r plus negative 3r gives us our negative 6r here. Okay. Now we find the LCD. So I'm going to put the LCD as my cat tries to walk on my computer. All right. Our LCD, the first one has an r plus 3. The second one's missing it, but we need to keep this r plus 3. Now, we both have r minus 3, but you'll notice there's 2 r minus 3s in the second denominator. So we can write this as r minus 3 squared because we have 2 of them. Right, and that's our least common denominator. Right, so now we need to multiply the numerators of each one by what they're missing. Okay, so I'm going to move down below, and I'm going to do 7r times, and we're missing one of the r minus 3s because there's only one in our right here. We need 2 of them for our LCD. So multiply that. Right. And then we're going to subtract, and then the second numerator is denominator is missing the r plus 3. Right, so we need to multiply 6r plus 1, right, times our r plus 3, and then we're going to end up subtracting subtracting it. So I'm going to put like a bracket to make sure we distribute that negative at the end. And then we're going to put our least common denominator, r plus 3 times r minus 3 squared. Now let's clean up the numerator. Get 7r squared minus 21r from distributing this, right? And now we have to multiply this piece right here. Okay, so we get what? Oh, let's make sure we keep this minus sign. And then in my bracket, I'm going to write 6r squared. And we get 6r plus, times 3. So we get plus 18r. And then we get 1 times r, so plus r. And then we get 1 times 3, so plus 3. Okay, so now that is all over our LCD. Okay. Now, remember to distribute this negative sign to each term, right? If you want to combine these r's first, that's fine, right? So it would be 19r, and then when we distribute the negative, we'd just be subtracting it. Okay, so I'm going to move down here. Right, 7r squared minus 21r minus 6r squared minus 19r minus 3. And that's all over our LCD again. So this one has a good amount of steps because we're both fractions didn't have all of the LCD in it. All right, now let's clean this boy up a little bit. We get 7r squared minus 6r, which is r squared. Right, so I combined this and this. Next, I'll combine the r's, so negative 21r and negative 19r, right, which gives us negative 40r, and then minus 3. Okay, that's all over r plus 3 times r minus 3 squared. Now, right, there's no multiples of 3 that are going to add up to 40 or negative 40r. So I'm going to leave this as my solution. Right? We can't factor that numerator at all. So we'll leave this as our solution, and that is number 5. All right, the last problem I'm going to do is example 6. There's 2 problems that say you try it at the bottom. You can try those if you want, but we're going to do more examples next class with a worksheet, and then we'll do some math excel the following class. So you don't have to try those. I can write the solutions for them if you want them, or you can ask me for the solutions and then I can send them to you. But again, you don't have to try them. It's up to you. So number 6, it says find the slope of the line that passes through the points shown expressed in simplest form. So for this one, you need to know the slope formula, right? So slope, or m, is the difference between the y's and the difference between the x's. Right, this is x1, this is y1, x2, y2. So a little bit of algebra 1 for you. But it ends up being just like a simple simplification problem. So what we can do is do our y2, so negative 1 over b, minus our y1, so minus 1 over b, and then our x2, which is 1 over a, minus our x1, which is negative 1 over a. All right. So then let's clean this up, right? The new denominators of the numerator are the same. So Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2 over b, all over, and then right, we know minus a negative changes to plus, so we get 2 over a. Okay. Now, we cannot have a fraction in our denominator, right? We see this is sort of a division problem. So what we need to do is, instead of dividing negative 2 over b by 2 over a, right, we change it to multiplying by the reciprocal. So negative 2 over b times the reciprocal of 2 over a. So we flip the numerator and denominator, and it becomes a over 2. So now we just multiply, right? So negative 2a over 2b. We can cancel out the 2's. So we're just left with negative a over b as our solution. Okay. If you have any questions, again, message me on Remind. If you do want to try the U-Try-Its, then I can give you the answers to those if you also contact me on Remind or Google Classroom. But Remind is definitely the easiest one. So let me know. These are the end of the notes. We'll do practice on this stuff tomorrow. This, you do not have to submit the notes, but when we do practice on worksheets, whether you can print it out or do it in your notebook, you're going to take a screenshot and upload it to the assignment. But I'll give you directions whenever we do that on Google Classroom. All right, guys, have a good day.